Appreciate all of you hanging out with us. LA Dodger fans can party like it's 1988 all over again as they have won their first title thanks to the decision maybe to pull Blake Snell after just 73 pitches when he was in the midst of having a whale of a ball game. Certainly the Dodgers appreciated it. And we'll talk about that here momentarily, but the biggest story of the Dodger championship, I believe, is going to end up being Justin Turner testing positive for COVID somehow in the middle of the game and then coming back out on the field for the celebration, taking his mask off, kissing his wife or girlfriend, posing with the championship trophy, posing with his teammates with no mask on. It's going to turn into a Corona Bro Fest, the likes of which we haven't seen in baseball since the Miami Marlins tested positive in the first place. So I actually want to start there instead of starting with the Dodgers winning the championships. Have you guys seen the video yet that Fox Sports put out of Justin Turner coming back on the field, hugging everybody, getting his picture taken, holding the trophy, kissing everybody, hugging everybody? Have you guys seen that?
Yeah. I did.
So do you agree with me that it's going to turn into by far the bigger story than who won the World Series?
Yeah, but I have no problem with it. You know, when he wasn't out there to begin with, I felt so bad for Justin Turner.
Yeah.
He deserved to celebrate with his team. When I saw him out there, I felt a lot better for him, man. He deserved to be out there with his teammates.
If you were the Dodgers, you would have said, screw it, go ahead and bring him out.
Exactly, and Mookie Betts said that afterwards. He was part of this. He's our teammate. He deserves to be out here with us.
I think it's interesting. What about you, Danny G?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact I am a Dodgers fan, and I've watched Justin Turner's story this entire time. The Mets dumped him. He was a cast-off. He's one of the guys that the Dodgers resurrected his career. And so to watch his journey with the Dodgers and see him become part of this amazing story. I mean, there was talk a couple of days ago that he was right there with Seager as a co-MVP possibly. So for him to not be out there, all Dodger fans, we were like, what's going on? That was part of the conversation between all of us texting each other. Why did Turner get pulled? Why is Rios out there? What's going on? And then when he wasn't right in the middle of the celebration, when he's been such a huge part of the team, we're all wondering what is going on. And then, of course, Fox makes the announcement that he had a second test, right? And they weren't sure if it was a false positive or they didn't really know what was going on except for the fact that he couldn't be out there at first. And it was so frustrating. So then, to see him celebrating by taking that team photo, and I knew Twitter was going to erupt and go nuts. And sure enough, there were people on there calling him a killer. He's going to kill everyone out on
your
the
grandma.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and so the Corona bros and girls came out of the woodwork, man. I could not believe the comments that were on Twitter for the rest of the night.
All right, so what about you, Dub? What do you think?
Yeah, my first reaction when Fox kind of threw in that information right before they went to the celebration coverage was, oh my God, here we go. This is going to be the story of the day today, and I think you're right. I think it will be. But I agree with Danny G and Roberto. Justin Turner, when I think of the Dodgers, he's probably the second or third player I think of on that team, so he absolutely deserved to be out there with his teammates.
Or what about you, Eddie?
Yeah, my first thought was, thank God that they, didn't. This didn't happen.
Game 7,
right? That didn't happen before the game or after the game, and there was going to be a Game 7 because the Dodgers are like, hey, the season's over. We're the champs. Who cares? We're going to do what we want. You're going to fine us. Go ahead. We don't care. They wanted Justin Turner out there. He went out there, and yes, it's going to be. For some people, it's going to be the only story they talk about today.
All right, so let's pull back here on a couple of different levels. My first thought when I saw the Justin Turner news had nothing to do with the post-game celebration or anything else. It was, how does Major League Baseball have testing news come out during the course of a game? Like, I went to the White House. Hate to brag or draw attention to myself. It was 1 week ago. Every single day, the White House tests every media member that could come into close contact with West Wing people. and it takes 1 hour to get a result. So if the White House can do that, and if I know that Fox Sports has like 15-minute tests that they're doing on the studio lot to make sure that everybody's okay, how is it that Major League Baseball can be getting results from tests during the course of baseball games? And so my understanding of what happened is that Justin Turner had a test yesterday, meaning on Tuesday, that suddenly got flagged as positive. They then added another test to check and see if it could have been a false positive, and they realized during the course of the game that the second test was also positive. In other words, he had a first test. They expedited then in some way the second test. But I don't understand exactly. There are going to be a lot of questions about this, because if I can be at the White House last week, and if I can get tested and they can get me a result within an hour, how is it that it's not like Major League Baseball, there are like 500 people they have to test. How is it possible that they can't get a result before anybody plays in a baseball game? My second thought was, oh man, if the Dodgers lost this game, can you imagine if suddenly a ton of Dodger players also tested positive alongside of Justin Turner, like happened with the Marlins, like happened with the Cardinals, like happened with a bunch of different teams in Major League Baseball? What would they have done for Game 7? Would they have played Game 7? Would they have taken a week off before they played Game 7? I mean, that would have been an unbelievable mess for Major League Baseball. And then I also wondered, did Major League Baseball cover this up in some way in the hope that the Dodgers were going to win, and they didn't want the positive test to go public because they didn't want any other Dodgers potentially testing positive to also be issues going forward? And then I thought to myself, wait a minute, is Justin Turner right now already in quarantine back in a hotel by himself, like watching the Dodgers celebrate with no ability to do so himself? Well, that seems kind of ridiculous. And then I thought, wait a minute, are the Dodgers going to be able to leave Dallas, or are they going to have to all quarantine for 14 days in a Dallas hotel now before they're allowed to travel and go home? And then I thought, oh man, is that Justin Turner on the field right now? That looks like Justin Turner. Is that him with his mask off posing for photos next to Dave Roberts? Is that him? And then I saw this morning when I woke up, I saw Fox Sports has put out footage. And if you haven't seen the footage and you want to see it, it should be up momentarily on Outkick.com. And it's just footage of Justin Turner from the entire celebration. And there he is holding the trophy. And there he is kissing his wife or girlfriend without a mask on. Now, I am the farthest thing from a Corona bro in all of sports, but this is a big middle finger from the LA Dodgers organization to the Corona bro community and everybody else around Major League Baseball, because they're obviously continuing to expose Justin Turner to other people after knowing that he's tested positive. Now, we don't see all of the test results. I think there are a lot of athletes out there that if the player is asymptomatic, they just don't believe in the test accuracy. And we know there are a ton, an absolute ton of false positives in athletics. And certainly we saw that recently with Nick Saban. We have seen it with a lot of different athletes. And so it may be that athletes just don't care because they're actually looking at the data by now and aware that they aren't under a substantial risk factor from COVID. But I would say, given the fact that all these guys are going to be traveling away, theoretically, to go back to their homes to get ready for their off season, that this is potentially going to be a big mess. And I think it is going to wildly overshadow the Dodgers actually winning their first World Series title in 32 years for most people out there who are not Dodger fans. I think Dodger fans, like you just heard from Danny G and Roberto, are going to say, well, Justin Turner's a big part of the team. I understand why they want him on the field. I certainly understand why it would be super weird for Justin Turner suddenly to go from playing in Game 6 of the World Series to being locked in a hotel room watching his team celebrate while he's not allowed to be a part of it. I guarantee you that Major League Baseball was not happy that Justin Turner was on the field. If they haven't already issued an official statement, I bet they issue an official statement before this radio program is over this morning. But I don't know what exactly Major League Baseball could have done when the Dodgers decided they wanted Justin Turner on the field. Are they going to tackle him? Is Major League Baseball security going to arrest him in some way for not being for violating terms of Major League Baseball quarantine, especially because the season is already over? Or is Major League Baseball able to insist that the entirety of the LA Dodgers enter into quarantine now, or once the season is over, does their ability to restrict the movement of any player end? I mean, these are all big questions from a legal perspective and also a baseball perspective that are all going to be raised in a substantial nature now, and it's not going to be as much of a discussion about baseball season ending. Baseball season began in controversy with the Houston Astros cheating scandal, and I think it's going to end in controversy with Justin Turner testing positive and the COVID scandal controversy that is going to linger now, and I think characterize much of the discussion surrounding the Dodgers winning a championship.